Alright, so I just got this tractor home. It's Massey Ferguson 35 Deluxe. I bought this at an estate sale last fall. It's almost June now. I brought it to my brother's house, had it parked there a while. I don't know if I recorded anything before today. I don't remember. But essentially, I went to the estate sale. I bought this tractor. It came with the back blade that I took off my truck today. And it came with a drag disc harrow. It came with a planter. And it came with a sickle mower. And the boom, the red boom. I think that's it. I went to the estate sale. I wasn't really planning. I was planning on buying something, so I brought my truck and trailer. But I didn't know what I was going to buy. They had a whole bunch of stuff there. They had some old Willys Jeeps there that were sold for almost nothing. The guy was asking $1,700 a piece, and they were the cab over, and all the glass was there in them and everything. They sold them for $1,700 a piece. I got there, and the guy told me that's what the price was. I was like, I'll buy both. They're like, oh, they're already sold. I was like, well, yeah, obviously they're already sold at that price. I couldn't believe it. Those sell for like 10 times that. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I ended up getting this. It was $2,500 for this tractor and all of those implements, all as one package. And it has 478 original hours on it, and I've probably put at least 20 hours on this since I've owned it. I'm going to put a hydraulic top link in. This actually doesn't even have a top link. I was just using a chain. This was just a piece of chain that was laying around at the estate sale. They didn't have a top link there at all, they said, or they didn't even know what a top link was when I asked them. So these people really knew nothing about what they had. But I found this length of chain laying around, and I just I stuck it in behind the pin here for the top link, and it locked the chain in there, and then I can adjust the length by just hooking the hook in a different spot on the chain. So it works for a top link right now. Obviously, it's not ideal, and you can't use it for pushing. You can only use it for pulling. But it worked fine for the boom pole, because I was just trying to hold the boom pole up. So the main problem that this tractor has right now, when I got it running, I went to the estate sale. All I had to do to get it running was I cleaned the points, because it didn't have spark. So I cleaned the points, got spark. And then the fuel was just absolutely gross. This entire fuel tank was black. Unfortunately, I don't have any pictures of what it looked like. But the fuel, I literally opened this up. The fuel was straight black, and it smelled exactly like paint varnish. It was ridiculous. And you can actually see here on the frame, there's spots where that fuel dripped. So the fuel, this was gasoline, right? That came out of the tank, and it dripped here, and then it dried, and now it's literally paint. Like, that's what was in the gas tank. It was basically paint. So, we're thinking maybe somebody sugared this tank or something. They didn't like these people. I don't know. The people I bought it from said it hadn't ran since the 80s. And they didn't know why it didn't run. So I actually got it running at the estate sale. So I got everything loaded on my truck with this tractor after I got it running. And all I had to do to get it running was I took a gas can like this. I found a piece of hose like this laying around at the estate sale. And then I just jammed the hose in the breather. Found the right size hose so that it would just barely fit in the breather. And you can do this, and once you get it in there far enough, The hose fits tight enough that it's got a seal, and you got to take this off so that the gas can flow. And you stick the other end on. This is the fuel. So this is the fuel bowl. This comes out of the gas tank here. This is just a sediment trap, and then it goes, so it lets it down in here into the bowl, and then it goes up through a screen and then out into this tube. So I just took this tube off. That tube goes around to the other side of the tractor and goes to the carburetor, and I just jammed this hose onto that tube and then jam the other end in there, and then you just put it up on the hood and it'll gravity feed. This tractor, this is all gravity feed anyway. They don't have pumps on tractors like this. You just turn the fuel on here, and if this actually worked, it would send through. So the reason I'm not sending fuel directly from the tank now, like I said, the tank was all that varnish. My dad ran gasoline through this tank about, I don't know, probably 20 or 30 times at least. And he actually got it to break up. There was a lot of stuff in the bottom of the tank, and there was about, he filled a 5-gallon bucket with about that much of just black sludge, like chunks. So it was like, you know, it's probably almost a gallon of just black sludge in the bottom of this tank. So you got that washed out. I think the tank is pretty clean now, but it has little particulates in it. And this this fuel bowl here, it's everything from like where it goes into the tank up was all like busted off. I actually have a brand new one. Let me grab it. So this is the new fuel bowl. Same as the old one, the only it just doesn't have this stuff broken off on the top. So you see there's a screen here, and then there's this tube. Now the way this works is there's a little hole. See, the tube's offset. There's actually a hole next to the tube to its left, right there. So there's the hole in the tube, and then there's a hole to the left. If you open it 2 turns, it'll open the right hole. So that will be the tube. So it'll only let stuff in through this tube. But that tube, once you get down to the level of the tube in the tank, then it'll stop flowing. So you won't have any more gas. But then, in case you run out of gas in the field, it's got reserve. So you just keep opening, and it'll open up the other hole that's down in here, inside the bottom of the screen. And that that second hole will let the rest of the fuel in from the height of the tube down to the bottom for you to get back and go fuel up. So that's the reserve. That's how the reserve system works. And you can see, well, I don't know how well you can see, but you see that little tan, like brown stuff in there? That's another screen. So you can see that hole. It comes down into that hole, drops into the sediment bowl, and then it has to fill up the whole sediment bowl, and then flows up through that screen to go out this hole. And that's how it gets, then it goes through that tube and it goes around to the carburetor. So it's all gravity feed. I'm gonna put this new sediment screen and all this stuff. I'm gonna put this whole new fuel bowl in there so that the sediment screen works and stuff. The problem I have right now is the top, all of this is busted off on the one that's in the tank, and there's still sediment in the tank. And so the sediment, there's actually so much that it's going in, and because there's no screen here, it's just going directly in. And this tube is busted off also, so it's just going directly into the hole that the fuel is supposed to flow through, and it just plugs up the hole up here, and then it doesn't let fuel flow. It'll still let some fuel flow, but it just won't flow fast enough to keep enough fuel in the carb to let the engine run for any long period of time. So what happens is the fuel bowl in the carb over here will slowly fill up if I'm running it off the tank. It'll slowly fill up this fuel bowl here, and it'll give it some amount of fuel to run the tractor for a certain amount of time. But the fuel flowing through this tube is slower than it burns out of the fuel bowl in here, and so you end up with you just run out of fuel after like 3 minutes or so, because the fuel just can't flow fast enough out of the tank. That was a problem I was having when I was trying to get the tractor here. So what I did is I just went back to my gas tank method, where I just hook a gas tank directly up to this, and then it gets plenty of fuel. My other problem is this. Obviously, this carb needs to be cleaned. It's been having like varnished gas and all that stuff run through it. So there's a 7/16 on the fuel line. This fuel line is actually just the same as any. It's basically just brake line. And it's got the same, it's got the old school flare, not the bubble flare. I like this flare better. It's easier to do. It's got a little bit of fuel in it. I'll just leave that line hanging there. I don't want to have to fish it through. There's no reason. And then up here, I don't know what size. This is loose. I believe that these, and it's 1/2 inch. I believe that these bolts up here thread directly into the carb itself. Oh no, this is on a stud. Okay, so the carb probably has studs on it. There you go. Alright, so that hardware is all off. So this should just drop down now. It's probably going to be pretty tight. There it goes. That's a cotter pin that was holding the choke. I'll save that cotter pin. And we gotta take out another cotter pin on this end for the throttle. I'm just gonna take off this cotter pin up here. So I might buy a carb rebuild kit for this if I take it apart and it looks all, you know, screwed up. But if I take this apart and I can just clean it and put it back together, that's what I'm doing. I'm only getting a rebuild kit if it needs parts. I'm going to disassemble this, not in this pan because it's so reflective, but I'm going to need that pan. Get some gasoline here. I'll dump all the gas in the pan first. So we're going to need to clean up this this carb, obviously. The outside of it's all crusty. The inside of it's, I'm sure, crustier. So we got, this is the way it sets. Wait, is it? Yeah, this is the way it sets on the tractor. So fuel comes in there. So this right here is a main jet. I'm just gonna take that right out. And it actually doesn't look horrible, but it definitely needs to be cleaned. So we're gonna clean that up. Like I said, I don't have a rebuild kit for this, so right now I'm just going to take everything apart the way it is, and we'll see how bad things are, and if I need to rebuild stuff. So, once the main jet's out, I think you can just take these screws out. I've never taken apart one of these carbs before, but most carbs are pretty similar. Once you've taken apart a carb, you pretty much know how they work, generally. Alright. Now it should come in half. Yeah, I don't want to screw up the gasket. There we go. Come on. Gasket's giving me trouble. I think we're gonna have to get at least a basic kit. Alright, so that's got to come out. It's a 3/8. Need a deep socket. It's dirty. That goes with that. Some kind of gasket. Yeah, see, it's real dirty in here. It's all crusty. It's a float. This float definitely sticks sometimes. I'll just pull that pin out for the float. That's the float pin. Throw that in my pan so I don't lose it. The float. This gasket, I think, is going to have to just straight up be replaced. It's very stuck here. I'm not sure if this gasket must, I'm guessing it comes with that ring in it. Looks to be possibly a brass ring. It's real light though, it doesn't feel like brass. I don't know. This is 7/16. This is just a plug. Probably could have taken this out to drop the gas out of it. This shouldn't be in there that tight. I've had this out. There's a small jet right there. Get that jet out of there. It's a little jet. This will probably come out. Might need a wider screwdriver than this. Which might be a problem because I don't know if I have one here. Yeah, I need a wire screwdriver than that. Got this big one. Let's see if that'll go in there. Man. Well, if it don't want to go, it don't want to go. No use screwing it up. Alright, so this has to all get cleaned up. I still got to get that seat out of there. I believe a basic kit will come with the seat, so I'm going to order a basic kit, wait for it to get here. And if I got a seat with the new one, I'm just going to use an easy out to get this out. That should work. It'll bite into the brass really good. I'll just stick one in there and, you know. This doesn't want to come out. I think I don't need to take it out. I think it's just a plug that goes through this passage. So it would let you clean this out easier, but I think I'll be able to clean it out fine. Just having this axis and this axis. And that's about it. I think everything's out. This, I still have this butterfly in there. This is a choke. I could take that out, possibly. I don't know if I want to. It's spring loaded. I think I'm just going to try to clean it without taking that out. So I'll clean this up. I got some lacquer thinner. That'll work. There's a little bit of gas in here. That'll also work. Lacquer thinner will probably actually work better because I think this stuff will cut the varnish where gasoline won't. Or not as easily. This stuff cuts varnish a lot better. Alright, so I got the basic Massey Ferguson kit in here. It says it's for a TE20, TO20, and TO30, but I believe it's the same carb as these. I ordered this from yesterday's tractor. It's like a hobbyist website company, and they know all kinds of stuff about tractors. I said I needed a kit for a Massey Ferguson 35, and this is what they sent me. So I imagine it's probably correct, and everything looks correct. If you look at the gasket there, this is the old gasket. It's the same. I gotta get this ring out of here. I guess it probably doesn't matter which way this goes. It looks like it's symmetrical. I'm just gonna put it like this. I'm gonna put it that direction. You gotta get this thing to go on there. Might be a bit of a stretch, but I think it'll go. There it is. So that's on there. Didn't say anything on here, right? Sometimes it'll say like this side up or something, but I do not think this gasket matters which direction it's facing at all. Alright. So I don't want to mix up my new parts with my old parts. Got one more gasket. So these are going over here. And then I have, most importantly, I got a bunch of O-rings and stuff, but I've got a new seat and a new needle valve here. This carb was not filled with sludge, which means I don't think they ran it after whoever put whatever in that tank made it filled with sludge, filled it with sludge. So, because that sludge never made it into this carburetor. Which leads me to believe that this tractor was already not running by the time somebody dumped something in that tank that they should not have dumped in the tank. There's probably kids. Now we've got the trouble of getting this out of here. So I'm going to try and see if I can convince it to loosen up with some WD-40. I have PB Blaster somewhere. That stuff works a little bit better than WD-40 for breaking stuff loose, but all the gasoline I had in this pan evaporated. So I'm just going to have to use lacquer thinner to clean it. Yeah, this thing doesn't want to grip like at all. I think I might have to use the old hammer and chisel trick, or grab onto it with vice grips, or probably use an easy out would be the best, but I don't actually have any easy outs here. So we can try it's not moving. There we go. It's turning. There we go. Just had to break it free. Now it comes out easy. Anyway, we'll try to clean this out pretty good. I got, this is just lacquer thinner here. At least try to get most of the varnish off. Or if it really ain't that bad in here. It's a little old. It looks a little, there's crusty stuff around, a little bit of rusty stuff. Probably because this thing was sitting, you know, gas evaporated out of it however many 30 years ago, so, or longer. So it probably sat with just, you know, air moisture in it. Alright, I'm going to put all the small parts in this, especially this here, because that's got to be soaked. Make sure that gets cleaned out. And I'm just going to soak all the small parts. I already brushed them off decently well, but I'm going to let all the small parts soak. And the The big parts I'll just clean thoroughly. Alright, I let these soak for about a day. I'm going to try to dump the lacquer thinner out of this jar into that jar without dumping any of the parts. I'm just going to save this lacquer thinner for if I gotta soak more parts later for something. I'll just have it. It probably will evaporate out of the jar because I don't think these lids make that tight of a seal. But so we gotta start putting it together. So this is the top. I'm gonna put the new jet in this. I'm sorry, it's the old jet, but it's going back in. Set that in. So for the seat, we need a gasket, and I believe it's one of these. It's probably that one. I don't think there's any difference between these two. Up the gasket. And now we got our butterfly shaft and a little gasket, I believe goes right here. And that just slides in. And then we're gonna reuse this set screw with its, I don't know if set screw is the right word, but so this adjusts how closed your throttle can get, so it'll idle easier. There's the butterfly in, the 18, so you can read it facing out that way. I don't know if I like these new screws. I'm going to use the old ones. I don't think it'll hurt nothing. I don't know why they give you new ones. I guess it's maybe they give you a new shaft and new screws in case you break off a screw in the shaft. If these screws come loose, you're in trouble. It's going into your engine. I don't think there's anything to stop it from getting sucked into the engine if one of these screws come out. So make sure they're nice and tight with the star washers on there to lock them, and should be good. You gotta put this thing back in. This was just threaded in there right here. I don't know if I should put thread sealer on this or if it's gonna matter. It is a fuel line, and as far as I can tell, there's no seating. I think maybe I should just put some Teflon tape on it. I'm not sure if it's technically necessary or if you're supposed to use Teflon tape on this, but as far as I can tell, the only way that this seals is the threads itself, and this is the fuel into the carb, so I don't want it to leak. So it's getting some Teflon. I doubt it could hurt anything. This is a 14 millimeter wrench, but you can use a 9/16. I actually don't know where my 9/16 wrench is, so I just use a 14. They're roughly the same. There's a lot of metric size wrenches that are almost the same as a standard. I might be able to get one more turn out of that. Let me see if I can do it. Call that good. I might have overdid it. I got some brass coming off of it. Oh well. It felt loose, that's why I wanted to give it one more go. So this is MPT, right? And this is a brass fitting, and it's a cast iron housing, so obviously cast iron stronger. And as you thread it in, it gets tighter and tighter and tighter inside the MPT fittings. So I was actually getting to the point where it was so tight that it was starting to shave the brass. You really don't want to do that, but I didn't want it to be loose either, so whatever. That should be fine. I don't think I'm ever taking that fitting out again, so. And if I do, I can just get a new fitting, because all that it would screw up is a brass fitting. It's not going to do anything to the housing. Just put a new brass fitting in. This is just a plug, goes in the bottom. I'll just put that in there finger tight. And we got this thingy. I can't tell one of these gaskets supposed to go. That gasket don't fit. I don't know what those ones are. None of them are the same size as this one. That one's a little bit too big. So I'm just going to reuse this one. It seems like it's fine. And this goes in here. And this is a, I believe, 7/16, right? No, 3/8. That makes more sense. It looks more like a 3/8. 3/8. I think you need a deep well. You might be able to get away with a shallow. Just tighten that up. Just wrist tight is fine. Everything on a carb pretty much wrist tight. You're mostly dealing with brass, so if you go tighter than wrist tight, you'll just strip it. Okay, so that's good. I don't know what this spring does. It might be the spring for this thing, the throttle. Did the throttle have a spring on it? Yeah, I don't know what that spring's for. I accidentally dented this. I didn't realize I was cleaning it, and I was gripping it too much. So you can see I put a dent in that. That's not good, but I don't think it's going to matter that much. So these floats are very thin metal that are hollow so that they float. So if you dent them, you decrease the volume, and then they float less. And if you puncture them, then they fill up with gas, and then they don't float at all. So you got to be careful with the floats. So the floats go like this. So the needle valve goes in there. And then the float goes on there. I'm going to use the new pin, because they gave me one, and slide it in there. And there we are. And we got this, goes right here. You gotta put the Venturi in like this. I had to put this on before I put the float on. I'll just take the float out. And this goes like that. And you can put the float back. All right, that appears to be assembled. So now that should just go on there. It's backwards. I'm like, why is it not going together? because it's backwards. All right, make sure I'm not blocking anything. Make sure that pin's centered. Butterfly things in my way. Just gonna take that out. Okay, they're all tight. I'm gonna go ahead and assume that all that other stuff that I didn't put on doesn't matter. I don't know. The things that came with this kit that I didn't use is that spring, this thing, that thing, that thing, and that thing. I don't know what those gaskets are. I use gaskets in the places that I know that it mattered. So there's the carb put together. Now let's put it on the tractor and see if the tractor runs. I believe that this gasket was in fact supposed to go on here. So I'm just going to put it on. Alright, now we put it on the tractor. Okay, so I just broke this free. This is the throttle linkage, right? So I put the throttle linkage on the new throttle shaft, and you can see it goes in from this side. It was really tight getting it in there, so I WD-40'd it and just ran it back a few times to loosen it up so that it's not so tight in here, so it doesn't bind when I'm trying to change the throttle. And then up here, I broke this stuff free and covered it in WD-40, and then ran the nut all the way on and then back off, and then also ran this thing on and off and adjusted it. So now everything's broken free in here, and it's nice. The threads are nice and clean. And if I need to adjust this on the tractor, it'll be much easier, because this is going to be right next to the engine. It's going to be right here, so it'll be much harder to break that free later. So I did that all now. So everything here, this is basically like everything here is pretty much new. It's all cleaned and rebuilt. All right, I want to empty out the tank before I do this, because if there's any crud in the lines of the tank or whatever, I don't want them to screw up the carb. And you can see there's like sludgy crap here. So I'm gonna hook this tube onto the line where it goes into the carb. I already hooked it back up to the other end. And I'm just gonna turn the gas on and get it all in the bucket. See what the fuel looks like. If I think it's burnable, I might just put it back in the tractor, but we'll see. So the fuel's on, wide open, and nothing's happening, so it's not a good sign. This is a sediment bowl. You can see there's a good amount of sediment in it. So I'll wash that out. So That's the fuel bowl with the fuel wide open and nothing is coming out. So I think I'm gonna have to just take that fuel bowl right off and see what comes out of the tank. It's actually coming out relatively clean now. I bet you I could. This is the new one. I'm just gonna put it in. Uh-oh. Maybe I'm not just gonna put it in. It actually came out relatively clean. Just put this in there. There it is. Put this in here. Alright, so I got this tube still hooked up. I'm just going to flush some gas through. Alright, that's a lot of gas coming out of that line now. Okay. Alright, fuel's off. Alright, now we have our carb to put on. So there it is. This fuel line's a little bit in the way. I've got 2 star washers and 2 nuts to hold the carb on. So carb, gotta get this throttle lever up close to where it's supposed to be so that can be hooked up. And throw a star washer on. And then I'm just going to get 1 nut started. That's on there. Throw the other star washer on. Half inch. Yep, half inch. No real good way to tighten this one. Exhaust manifold's in the way. So we got throttle linkage pin and cotter pin. And just bend that. It was previously the other way. I don't know why. I would always put the cotter pin on this side. You gotta be real careful when you're starting brake lines like this. It's easy to cross thread them. So what happens sometimes is you have a tiny bit of resistance right before it starts, and then it should be no resistance as soon as it goes. And if you just have more resistance, you got a problem. You got to stop. You're screwing up the threads. Shouldn't have any resistance putting on any sort of gas line or brake line or anything like that. I'm going to put this thing on here. I think this should be just finger tightened. I needed a channel lock to take it off, but I don't think you're supposed to need a channel lock to take it off. Alright, in the interest of safety, before I start it, I'm going to make sure that all this fuel on the ground gets dried up, because my tailpipe comes out right here. You can see it right there. So that's a tailpipe, and if I get a backfire because of the carb is flooding it or something or whatever weird, if I get unburned fuel coming or burning fuel come out here, it could ignite the gas on the ground and basically engulf everything. I think it would just go out real quick if that happened, but it would be real hot in the meantime. And I don't want a big fireball in my garage. There we go. That should dry out that gas in no time. Alright, it's relatively dry now. I'm just going to leave the fan on, because then if there's any fumes, they'll just keep blowing out. That should work. While it runs, the carb obviously needs to be adjusted. It just wants to run wide open, so I can adjust the jets in there. But it runs. It'll probably do what I need it to. Alright, so I got the carb adjusted. It idles low, a little over 400, maybe almost 500 RPM, where it's idling right now. And it'll go all the way up to this wide open. It'll go up to like, it'll get up to like 2200 or so, which is about as high as you're supposed to go on these. Goes right down to idle, and it almost sounds like it's going to stall, but it's not. Everything's adjusted right. That's just how slow it is. I may have to do more adjustment. Obviously I'm not moving, so nothing's under load, so I might have to adjust the carb more. But the main reason it was running so fast before is because it was running real lean, because the butterfly on the throttle wouldn't close all the way. I had that set screw that I put in, that the adjustment screw for the throttle shaft. The spring was compressed too much, and you couldn't get the that screw to be far enough back. So I just offset it with some washers, and now it's good. All right, so it runs well. Now I got it warmed up, I'm going to change the oil. Not sure what size this drain plug is, but it's at least an inch. And I don't have a wrench that big here, so just use a adjustable wrench. I don't know when this stuff's been changed last. It's pretty dark, but there's probably some blow by in the cylinders. It's an old tractor. There's hardly any hours on the engine though, so maybe not. That's drained enough. So the oil fills right here on the front of the motor, the right hand side. I already took it out so that the drained easier. The filter's on the other side. So inside, I got the wrench on there already. That's inside that can is one of these. And got some gaskets. So this is going to probably dump oil everywhere. So I'll move the catch pan underneath. All right. Right, there it is. That's why you put the catch pan underneath. So that's what I got in there now. This is a new one. It's a little bit different style, but it should fit. So I believe this spring was just stuck to that. So that spring goes on. I think they send me a bunch of seals because they don't know what size you need. So the middle size one fits right in there. So that just lays like that. It's very important you make sure that that gasket has a good seal, or your filter's gonna leak constantly and it's gonna be a huge mess. So that's in there, the spring's in there. You slide this on the bolt. We got the gasket is just laying in there. Try to make sure it lays nice and flat. Alright, so what I did there is I laid the gasket in, and then I held this, like I got the gasket right where it's supposed to be, and then I pushed this against it and hold it there, and you're fighting the spring. But you gotta get, before you do that, you have to get this bolt started a little bit, so you got a couple threads in. Then you can hold this against the seal, so that you know it's flat against the motor correctly, and the seal's in the right spot. And then you can tighten the bolt with a ratchet. You're going to need to use a ratchet because you're going to be fighting the resistance of the spring, so you won't be able to do it by hand, but you just hold that. And I think my seal's good here, and that's pretty much everything should be good. This is an old oil jug that I have laying around. So this motor is supposed to take, I think they just say 30 weight. Like 30 weight detergent oil or something. I'm putting in dual weight, so it's 15W30, I mean 15W40. And the reason I'm doing this is because this is the diesel stuff you can get, and it's got additives in it to prevent wear on the cam and stuff. And it's an old motor, so this oil should work well. Getting close to full. Granted, the filter is still empty. Gonna have to run it. Filter's leaking. Alright, well it turned out none of the new gaskets that came with the filter actually fit. So I just used the old gasket. Again, it was in decent shape. So I guess be aware that if you're buying a new filter, cartridge style, they might not actually send you a gasket that actually fits the tractor that you have. But the filter's in place and oil's changed. Now we can see if we can fit it out of the garage. I got a very big stump right here that's virtually completely rotten, but I'm just gonna try to pull it out and see what happens. Obviously, if that wasn't rotten, this is never gonna pull it out unless you dig. But I think it'll just pull. We'll see. Probably pretty likely that there's yellow jackets or hornets or something in that stump. So I'm pulling it with a kind of long chain, so I'm going to be like off that way by the time I get it. Yep, that's just about what I expected to happen. I don't see any bees. But it's just completely rotten. There was nothing left of it. And that's good news, because that means I can easily, with this slip scoop and with my back blade over there, I can just grade this with the tractor, no problem. Because I just pull the dirt in. And there's one bee there. Trying to figure out what's just happened. I don't think there was any nests in here though. If there was, it was probably in a part I didn't disturb, but that would generally, what I just did would very much make a nest unhappy. So I actually can't even pull it any farther. I pulled the chain right through. And the chain literally just, it was a slip chain, right? So it just tightened and tightened and tightened and squeezed the whole top right off. I'm gonna try pushing around a little bit on this, see if I get attacked by bees. Okay, so there's some hard pieces in here that I can't push out. I think it'll pull out with a chain pretty easily. You can see there's a big chunk right here that's just hard wood. I've been thinking about buying a stump grinder for a while. It's probably going to get a Woodland Mills, same brand as my sawmill. If I do decide to get one, then I'll just grind this with a stump grinder, but otherwise I could probably pull this stuff out with chains. Or just get the backhoe here and I could dig it all out. Problem is, this is like a really, you know, it's basically the city. There's everybody, you know, tight houses all right next to each other, so getting the backhoe here. I could get it here and it would fit in the backyard. I could get it around the garage, but not ideal. I mean, this tractor is already pushing it for size of vehicle to be doing work here with. There was one of these for sale recently, the exact same tractor, but somebody had put a bucket on the front. I might want to put a bucket on this one. I'm not sure. I do have all the hydraulics. I have a 3-spool remote to go back here. I just haven't put it on yet. And I also think I'm gonna use this tractor to run the dump hoist on my dump truck for temporarily until I can get the exhaust rerouted so I can actually put the PTO on the truck. The problem is I just don't have PTO on the truck right now, so I can't run the pump. But I can run it on this tractor. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. Alright, I'm gonna end the video here. I was planning on maybe putting in a bunch more footage of me using the tractor, but this video is already getting way too long, so this is going to be the end of it. I'll put out another video soon, probably next week, of pulling out a bunch of bushes and stuff around the yard with the tractor, so look out for that. I've got a lot more footage on the tractor too already recorded. All kinds of stuff, projects and upgrading it and things. And I also just have tons of other footage that I've been recording for years, and I just never actually made the time to edit anything. So I'm finally editing things, and my goal is to put out one video a week, and they'll probably be dropping every Friday, I think. So if you want to see more videos like this one, I'm gonna have a lot more. All kinds of stuff too. Everything from sawmilling to mechanic work, rough carpentry, finished carpentry, operating equipment, vehicle restoration, home improvement. Basically anything I've done over the past few years that I thought was remotely interesting, I recorded. So I have tons of stuff, and like I said, I'm going to be putting out one video a week or so. So if you want to see them, subscribe. I'd appreciate it. And thanks for watching.